What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? 49 coming out, another community shoutcast for the OUSA Dota League Season 2. We're loading into game number 3 of Blink Dota up against Horsemen and Ruckus in the loser bracket finals. The winner of this series gets to go into the grand finals on Saturday up against 5IP, who were able to beat Horsemen and Ruckus, but that's mostly due to the fact that Horsemen and Ruckus threw game number 3, but that being said, 5IP also played very well. So Blink Dota in game number 1 were able to execute a flawless deathball strat. They were able to pick up their core arms very quickly, with the triple blink initiation coming in from Yoshi over in the Sanking, able to set up a lot of kills since they had that execution power. Especially since Dumblebee opted for a 4 Protect 1 very greedy build on the PA, going for Helm as well as the Battle Fury. But in game number 2, Horsemen and Ruckus were back in classic style, going for the Ember Spirit as well as the Abaddon. And so this time, Blink Dota once again banning out both of Dumbledee's, both the UGTFO and Dumbledee's favorite heroes. The Faceless Void in the 1 position and the Clockwork Goblin in the 3 position. Horsemen and Ruckus instead, they decide to let the Doom slip through the pool. They've shown they're not actually too afraid of the Doombringer. Abaddon seems to be the counter pick that they'd like to use against him. So they instead decide to ban out the Razor. That's because Razor is so powerful in every stage of the game. You can throw him into pretty much any lane, and so long as he's up against one hero, or if he's out and try, he should be able to do very well in the lane. And because Razor is such an annoying hero, it's very similar to a carrier Abaddon, you have to deal with him, but he makes it so difficult. And they go for the first pick Brewmaster, but in doing so, they give away the Doombringer once again, and they also give away the Tide. And so Blink Dota, they actually opted to go for second pick, as opposed to going for first pick. Usually the loser of game number 2 gets first pick in game number 3. Blink Dota actually opted to go for his second pick, and the reason for this is because they knew that since they're going to be respect banning HOR's heroes, a lot of heroes are going to be letting slip through the first banning stage. And so they're able to pick up Doom and Titan. So once again, we could be seeing a safe lane Doom this time as opposed to a mid Doom. Mid Doom, Flash actually wasn't able to accomplish anything for his team. He got completely zoned out and destroyed by Ember in the mid lane. He couldn't gank lane because his only ganking ability is Doom. Now, if you're going to be using Doom, even then, you need some kind of setup where you need a good rune to facilitate that. And since he opted not to go for a bottle, going for that mech rush, as well as being behind the farm, King Killer can then rotate across the map. He uses Wu-Tang style to cut them down left, right, and center. He was able to completely destroy Zeke in the top lane, as well as Gats over in the Brewmaster. He went for a bit of an unconventional build, going for Phase Split in the Brewmaster as opposed to Arcane. I keep saying over and over again, Arcane over Phase every single time. It gives you so much utility and so much power when you should be the strongest. Because Brewmaster, you've got an expiration date. If you don't end the game, but in the first 35 minutes, or put yourself in a good enough position so that the rest of your team can win by breaching high ground, he tapers off incredibly quickly. In the last game, it wasn't such a big issue because they technically had 4 cores. They had UGTFO in the 4 position Titan Hunter, who was actually able to find them obscene amount of farm and gold. And so they're banning out the Viper, since Viper hard counters the Ember Spirit in the lane, and they've also banned out the Abaddon. So respect ban coming out from Blink. They're respecting Dumblebee over in the Abaddon. I don't think he died once the entire game. And that's just due to the fact that once the borrowed time comes online, because he's going for that max save Folic Shield and Curse of Avernus build, he doesn't have to build damage. All he has to do is build survivability, and he gets damaged by just constantly being up in your face and stabbing you. There's nothing he could do because they lacked hard CC. And so this time Blink Dota, they decided to opt for a bit more crowd control, so they picked up the Titan Hunter, who's able to set that up with the Ravage. Fourth ban going to be coming from Horsemen and Ruckus. They should look to ban out the Disruptor or the Skywrath Mage. Both heroes work exceptionally well against the Brewmaster or the Ember Spirit. So that frees up Doom, so that means that he doesn't have to doom the Brewmaster, or he doesn't have to doom the Ember Spirit. So if Skywrath Mage Ancient seals the Ember Spirit with the Shield Staff will seal, that means that Doombringer can doom Brewmaster, and so you should be able to bring them both down. Because if you doom the Brewmaster, then Ember Spirit is left unchecked, and he can destroy your entire team with the Slate of Fist. Especially if you lack hard CC like you did the last game. Then instead ban out Yoshi's favorite support, or I guess Bambi, since he's the one that's been stuck playing him, the Shadow Shaman. That Blink Dota, in their group playoffs, as well as in the vast majority of the round of 8, they loved playing the Shadow Shaman because he fits so well with the Deathball lineup. But the biggest issue with the Shadow Shaman is if you don't get ahead with him, if you don't find enough farm so he can find his early level 7, early Arcane Boots, and maybe even pick up a Blink Dagger, he's food in every single one of these fights. Because Ember Spirit especially just cuts him down. Once Slate of Fist, Shadow Shaman's very low armor, will take out about a third of his life. That's just with the Battle Fury. Once the Daedalus comes online, you can actually one-shot him just with the Slate of Fist. And Shadow Shaman, if he dies before he's able to use all his abilities, considers he actually does provide a huge amount of utility in these fights, if he could stay alive. Then the Blink Dota fall apart, because if you're able to kill the backline very quickly, the front line, they have no logistical support. They've got no one there to provide that crowd control, they've got no one there to bail them out if they get stuck in a sticky situation, and so Horseman Ruckus can just run all over them. But that being said, Shadow Shaman, the advantages of Shadow Shaman is similar to a Lycan. If you ever win a fight and they're alive, you take a tower. It's pretty much a free tower. You drop your wards, get money, keep pushing, get further ahead. So Blink Dota starting to dip into their reserve time. They're a bit nervous of what hero to ban out, because Horseman and Ruckus, Dumblebee, he's probably the most versatile carry player in the ODL. He can play damn near anything as a carry. They're banning out the Wraith King, so they're fairing doubly in the Wraith King. He actually goes for a bit of an unconventional build. He goes for 1-1-4, maxing on the Mortal Strike. And the rationale for that is it gives you more overall DPS in the max Rayfire build. Maxing out the Rayfire build does give you a lot more sustained DPS, a lot more reliable damage, but since you're guaranteed to get at least one crit off since it's pseudo-random, the max crit build does actually do a fair amount of damage, especially if you're going 1v1 against hero. So if you're left alone, just throw out the Rayfire Blast, hit them. If you get a lucky crit, you can actually go for a kill. Skywrath Mage being picked up because he hard counters both the Brewmaster and the Ember. But that being said, the Skywrath Mage will, after a certain point, will actually get countered. Well, Ember Spirit will actually counter the Skywrath Mage, because Skywrath Mage won't be able to run in and get a seal off without dying instantly to the Ember Spirit. But the Brewmaster, every time he blinks in to go for the clap split, Skywrath Mage can silence him. Ancient Seal's a 0 cast point, and because Brewmaster has to clap then split, if he just splits, then he loses a huge amount of his teamfight power. As you saw in the top lane, he went and he split, and Blink Dodo is disengaged. And Gat wasted a 140-second cooldown that his team is entirely dependent upon to be able to win these early engagements. Sand King being picked up, a bit of an unusual pickup because Sand King is a very greedy support hero. Horsemen and Ruckus, they do like to play him a lot more active, and so they do like to constantly rotate and try to place pressure with him. But the biggest disadvantage of the Sand King is if you're not able to find kills, he does taper off. So that's why Blink Dodo, they like to play a very greedy Sand King, where he spends a lot of time in the jungle farming up his arcanes and Blink. But the drawback to that, of course, is that you're now running with a 2+1 as opposed to a tri lane. And so they can apply a lot of pressure. It means that they could actually go for greedy dual lanes and punish your off laner as well. And so if they're ever able to shut down the Sand King when he's in the jungle, delay his Blink dagger, Sand King becomes food. Silencer still is available, and Silencer actually hard counters Horseman and Ruckus' entire lineup. And that's something Blink Dodo might want to look into, because they could decide to run a mid-position Silencer, or even once again send Doombringer mid just not to lose mid, and have Silencer in the safe lane. So the idea behind that is similar to sending a Dragon Knight mid against certain matchups like a Viper, is the Dragon Knight, he's not meant to win that lane. If he does win it, it's because the enemy player is obscenely bad, because you should not be losing that matchup. The objective is simply not to die, and once they rotate to take their tower, or to be able to find as much farm as possible. And so Doombringer v Ember, he could do that, because Ember can't really kill the Doom. Doom is so damn tanky with his strength growth as well as with the Scorched Earth, that he should be able to keep himself alive. But at the same time, Doom can't really do much against the Ember. Ember's got a much faster base attack point, so even though Doom has more damage, unless he opts for a Quelling Blade, Ember should be able to out-CS him. That's what Kingkiller did in the mid lane. And so if they do decide to pick up a Silencer, they can have Silencer over in the tri lane, or even over in the off lane up against the Brewmaster, since Gat seems to love going, and I assume he's going to be the one playing the Brewmaster again. He seems to love going for the phase boots up on him, so you just catch him out the cost of silence, and that just zones him out completely. So Blink Dodo actually taking a page from Horseman and Ruckus' book, going for the Witch Doctor Skywrath Mage support duo. And so the reason why this works is Skywrath Mage sets up with a concussive shot. Witch Doctor can then get a good cast in, since you cannot count cast as a reliable stun. It's an unreliable stun at best. If the enemy happens to position himself really badly, if they happen to sit right next to a range creep, then you could get a reliable cast stun off. But otherwise, you can't expect the enemy team to be retarded. You have to assume that they're going to be playing intelligently, that they're going to position themselves appropriately. So the concussive shot sets up for it. Because the rationale for this is you don't need to get a bounce cask. You only have to get that initial cast stun off, because that sets up for the Maledict. And once you get Maledict, you've got enough damage between the two of you to kill them. Because the Malediction with the Arcane Bolt, as well as with a few right clicks from the Witch Doctor, since both Witch Doctor and Skywrath Mage have 600 range and above average movement speed, Skywrath Mage is the fastest support hero in the game. And Witch Doctor, I think he's about 310, and he hits like an absolute truck. So if you get that Malediction, use to cast this out the Malediction, the hero should be dead. Mirana being picked up by Horsemen and Ruckus, UGTFO's favorite hero. He played that hero to perfection in the ODL1. Back when Mirana used to be run as an offlane hero, now you no longer see her as an offlane hero, and that's because of the fact that she's so damn... she has such low base damage, it's very easy just to leave her alone against another solo offlaner, and for them just to be able to out-deny her and win the lane passively. And so it's incredibly difficult for the Mirana to do that well. And so the advantage of the Mirana, however, is in that support positions, if you've got a good setup hero, so for instance, a Shadow Demon, so you can disrupt, soul catch, and then arrow, that does an obscene amount of damage. You can use that and run it as a 4 position. But with the Sand King, Horsemen and Ruckus, if they are running UGTFO 4 position Mirana, since Gats is going to be the offlane, not really going to be too effective, because although UGTFO can land stuns without setup, he's an exceptionally skilled runner player, you want to make sure that you leave nothing to chance. You want to make sure that you're always able to hit these arrows, because otherwise, if you shoot arrow and miss arrow, not only is Sing Sing mad with you, but you're losing a huge amount of your early to mid-game impact. And Morphling being picked up by Blink Dodo. Morphling, a hero that does very well against Horsemen and Ruckus, because Morphling, the instant he hits level 7, a support hero can't go near him. If a Sand King happens to be in the lane, Morphling can go for a solo kill. If Mirana happens to be there, Morphling just trades hits and brings him down. So we're going to be seeing Morphling mid up against the Ember, and Morphling should actually destroy the Ember Spirit in the mid lane, because Morphling's got a much faster base attack time than the Ember Spirit, so his animation is actually a lot more fluid. He's got more base damage, especially with the Agimorph available that he'll probably go for at 1. And Ember Spirit can't ever trade hits with the Morphling. Morphling's strength molds keeps hitting him at you, and he waveforms him for the kill. And so this is what happened to King Killer last time in this matchup, and that was with a Viper v Morphling, which is a much more favorable matchup. If it's Morphling v Ember, Morphling should completely destroy the Ember Spirits. They might actually look to mix up their mid lane and run a one-position Ember Spirits. We could actually be seeing Dumble D in the mid lane. Since Silencer has been banned out, so Blink Dodo, even though Silencer benefits them more than it benefits HOR, they still opted to ban out the Silencer. I guess it's because they picked up the Witch Doctor, since otherwise they could have run a greedy 4-position Silencer who's there just to act as an ult bot, and the Recursion like to do. And if you're good with your reflexes, if you are able to catch them out every time you go in, you could win every single fight. Global Silence is one of the most powerful ultimates in the game, especially against the lineup that Horsemen and Ruckus have. And they're going for a Slark, so we could actually be seeing maybe Slark in the mid lane, and King Killer over in the safe lane. They do like to mix it up from time to time, because Slark in this matchup actually does very well. Slark is exceptionally powerful against the Morphling, because Morphling is so stat dependent, and Slark loves to steal stats. Every time he hits you, he's getting more stats. Slark also does very well against the Skywrath and the Witch Doctor, because they're very squishy and fragile supports. But that being said, if Skywrath Mage catches out Slark with the Ancient Seal before he's able to Dark Pact, Slark is food. Slark is so heavily countered by silences that's the reason why you have to pick him up. If you do pick him up, you have to pick him last, because if they pick a Bloodseeker, even if the Bloodseeker is absolutely awful, so long as he's alive and as long as he's got points up in Thirst, Slark is hard counted. If he ever gets a Blood Rage up on you, you can't purge off Blood Rage. Slark is now dead. He's completely useless. So over for Blink, they're rotating over as 5. Bambi going to be the 5-position Skywrath Mage. Yoshi going to be the 4-position Witch Doctor. Snow going to be the true 1-position as the Morphling, even though he's probably going to be going to the mid lane. Looks like he is. Zeki going to be the 3-position Tidehunter, running into the off lane. Flash probably going to be rotating to the top lane afterwards. Going to be the 2-position Doom, so his job is just to pick up all the utility items. And Zeki wants to get a Blink ASAP, so Flash is going to be the mech carrier once again. His Doom performance hasn't really been too impressive. He's been okay. He's mechanically proficient with the hero, but it hasn't really been blowing me away. That's just due to the fact that the biggest issue with Doom, especially as a safe lane farmer, is he doesn't really give you any kill power. It's similar to a Lycan. He's too greedy of a safe lane farmer, because at least with the Lycan throw, you could try to go for some Gosu Pro body blocks with the Wolves. You can provide that Howl to win the mid lane. Doombringer doesn't really give you any of that. If you eat maybe a Harpy Stormcrawler, you can at least provide some damage with the Lightning Bolt, but that's really about it. So Dumbledy, given over in the safe lane, since UGTFO over in the Mirana and Method Man over in his signature Sand King, going to be looking to gank mid at 1. Since Morphling at level 1, if you're going mid, you always go Morph at 1. Actually, even if you go safe lane, you usually go Morph at 1. So he's actually food right now. If he gets caught out with an arrow, or if he gets caught out with a Bar Strike from Method Man, even though he opted not to go Boots first, he doesn't like to go Boots first in the Sand King, which is a bit of a pity, because that means that it severely hinders your ganking capability. King Killer, he's going to be the true 1-position as the Ember Spirit. Dumbledee's going to be a 2-position as the Slark, and Gat's 3-position as the Brewmaster. Actually opted not to go for Boots. Has a lot of clarity, so we could probably be seeing something like a Facebook build of him once again, much to my dismay. Aggressive ward being placed at the spotty support rotation going towards Dumbledy. Would have actually liked to see it over here, because I mean the last game when they used this ward, it actually gave them absolutely nothing. And so placing a ward there at least shows you when supports are rotating in. Because Slark, like in the Abaddon, you could leave him alone. He probably won't. He's not as durable as the Abaddon, but he's 3 times as slippery. Dumbledy is a very experienced Slark player. If you leave him alone and give him free farm, he gets an 8-minute Shadow Blade every single game. He's incredibly skilled with that hero. And with a Shadow Blade, you can start making his plays. Because he's a snowball hero. It's the reason why I dislike him as a 1-position hero, is he's too dependent on having a very good early game and getting his pick-off kills. If Blink group is 5, since their lineup is very conducive for that, but at the same time, Blink not only do they have a very powerful Death Ball, they also have an incredibly powerful late game. Actually, as far as late game is concerned, I believe Blink actually have the superior late game lineup, because they've got the Doombringer to shut down either the Slark or the Ember Spirit, and they've got the Morphling who can just shotgun everybody else down. Morphling is one of the best late game carriers in the game, because similar to a Tinker, he starts to fight 4v5. You shotgun with the supports, and they're dead. The Mirana UGTFO, he's going to die every single time, because she's not going to have enough stats built on her, especially as a 4-position Mirana. Same with Method Man, although Method Man can at least try to disjoin it with the Bar Strike, get out of range, blink out in time, or try to Sandstorm and pray they don't have Truce Vision. But otherwise, if you catch them, I can blow them up. You can actually even do the same thing for the Ember Spirit. Ember Spirit is very fragile as a carry hero. He's entirely dependent on positioning and relying on that Sleight of Fist, so that's why Battle Fury is such a core item on him. If you want to go for more of a utility build, you can go for Ayaskadi. But in this case, because he's the true 1-position, because Slark, you can't depend on Slark as a form of physical DPS. Unless he's able to get obscenely farmed, you treat him as a ganker. So Ember Spirit has to be the true 1-position. And so that means that if the game does go late, Blink, they actually have a very powerful late game carry. Especially since Doombringer is able to shut them down and shut down their full Protect 1 strat. If he's able to doom the Ember Spirit, the Slark really can't do much against the Morphling. Slark, that being said as well, if Slark is able to get a lot of free shots on the Morphling, he does work well against him because he does steal his stats. But Snow actually getting quite handily out-denied there. He should have actually been playing a lot more aggressively, considering the fact that he's got a 12 damage point difference, as well as the fact that he's got the better animation and he's ranged. He could actually just be poking King Killer with a few right clicks here and there. But the swords are already rotating in. Yoshi goes in with a cast. Actually, cast bounces, flying over him. Method Man's there as well to be able to catch him out. Arrow actually lands on Yoshi. And Mr. Yoshi, you're going to be feeding first blood once again. Every time he goes in for a gank, he seems to be the one feeding first blood, so having a bit of a rough start. And Horsemen and Ruckus, they decided, Blink Donut tried to copy their book. But Horsemen and Ruckus, they perfected the art of the level 1 gank. And in this case, the level 1 counter gank, they're now rotating up, and an immediate pings are coming out from Snow. He's backing off, and that gives King Killer a free lane of experience. And so Horsemen and Ruckus, they love ganking mid at 1, because even if they don't gank mid at 1, the psychological pressure is there. You don't know if they're going to gank them or if they're not. And Method Man, he's going in, he's got sentries up, he actually might be able to catch out Yoshi, he's got the Barrow Strike available, he just throws out a cheeky right click, and the two decide to part off his friends. Bambi, looks like he opted for Arcane Bolt as 1, since Yoshi's there to provide a lockdown, so he's there to provide damage. UT2FO, he's got the arrow, so if Yoshi keeps chasing him, he could turn and just arrow him in the face. It looks like he's going to do so. Arrow flies, doesn't hit him, but hits Bambi square in the face. And they could actually turn and go for a kill on this, but Yoshi, he hits very hard. You never want to trade hits against a Witch Doctor. UT2FO actually could be throwing his life away, and he's got no escape mech, he's got no leap. Yoshi's got the cask available in 15 seconds, but just with right clicks can actually bring him down. Method Man throwing out a few cheeky right clicks, even Arcane Bolts. You never want to get in a prolonged fight against the Skywrath Mage, because if it's a support fight, they win. He just does a lot more damage than you. UGTFO throws out an arrow, so even if he does die, might be able to catch out Bambi. Unfortunately, not able to do so. Method Man gets cleaned up, and UGTFO as well. He's also on the run. Then turning around, Gats is coming in. If he eats one more Arcane Ball, one more right click, he could be taking a fall. And Flash, he's heading over to the safe lane. He rotates in to see what all the fuss is. Spots inside the Hellcaller, eats it, and Cat's picking out Bambi. And Bambi left on the vine to wither. Yoshi fleeing through the secret chop, but Bambi, no safe haven for you. UGTFO spots him out. Actually, Yoshi can actually go for a kill attempt on him. UGTFO is still running through him. And Yoshi gets one more right click and brings him down. So support v support. A lot of support was happening in the background. Two supports falling for both teams. So in terms of gold lead as well as experience lead. In terms of experience, because Horsemen and Ruckus got first blood, and because Snow was forced down the mid lane for a bit, 300 experience lead going in their hands. In terms of gold lead, Horsemen and Ruckus about 1,000 gold lead just because they were able to get first blood. And because in terms of last hits, looks like in the bottom lane, Dumbledore does very well up against Zeke. It looks like he actually might opt for 2 points in the Essence Shift in that 1v1 matchup, because it does give you an easier 1v1 matchup since it gives you stats for a much longer time. Especially against a Titan, since Titan is completely dependent on being able to try to zone you out with the Anchor Smash. But that being said, Zeke is actually doing very well against Dumbledore. The Titan should win this matchup, simply because Anchor Smash against another melee hero on a solo matchup means that you're going to out-deny them and just completely win the lane that way. And with 2 points on the Kraken Shell, you can't trade hits. So Dumbledore would like a bit of support coming in, but that being said, the supports really can't do much against the Titans, especially with 2 points in the Kraken. And Bambi, he's just sitting mid to bodyguard Snow, because Snow has to have a good lane. And they know they're respecting the power of King Killer up on that Ember Spirit. If he gets a good start, if he's able to get an early Battle Fury again, he will destroy your entire team. Method Man could catch out Yoshi. There we go. He doesn't want to go on Flash. The Flash is too tanky, so instead goes over on Yoshi. They could decide to dive. He's got the cask available. Turns around, throws at the cask. Catches out Gats. Gats taking a lot of tower hits. Immediate pings coming out from Method Man. Method Man sitting there listening to the Darude. Flash, he's got the regen coming in from Yoshi with the Voodoo Melody Restoration, as well as the set of Hellcaller. So he can actually sit in Sandstorm, not be too worried. And Method Man, he now backs away. Flash going to throw out a few cheeky right clicks to try them for his time, but Method Man's actually got boots up. So Sand King, I was talking about the disadvantage of Sand King early on because it's got such a short engagement range. King Killer actually almost gets killed by Skywrath Mage. So Bambi able to zone him out, but King Killer still maintaining the CS lead. And UGTFO rotates to the bot lane, but even if he lands an arrow on Zeke, they don't have enough damage to kill him, because with the Kraken Shell, he's guaranteed to purge it off. And with the Arcane Boots as well, he can actually turn and kill Dumbledore. So Zeke, 3 points up on the Yank Smash. This is the ideal build in the 1v1 solo matchup. You might opt for a point in Gush at level 5, if you think you could go for a kill. But with the Invis rune up on Morphling, Dumbledore actually just throws his life away. It's not just waveforms to get the free kill. Arrow flies out, hits Zeke, actually looks like a whiffed on him. UGTFO also going to be taking a fall. Ravage flies out as well. And good rotation coming out from So. This is the power of the Morphling. He offers you an extreme amount of early game killing power because he right clicks very hard. He's getting free right clicks in when he waveforms. And because you always want to waveform so that you're behind them, so they have to run past you, you're getting 2-3 free shots in, as well as the extra hit you get when you waveform. So Morphling does a surprisingly high amount of damage, especially against support heroes, since they're going to be so underfarmed. But King Killer in the mid lane, he's got level 6, and once he's got the Remnant, he might look to make a play over on Bambi. Bambi's actually maxing out Ancient Seal. And so the reason why he's doing this is because he's up against the Brewmaster and the Ember Spirit. So it's a counter build, and it works very well. Flash actually could go for a kill attempt on Gats if he had the ultimate available, unfortunately doesn't. but Gats is forced out. This time he's holding onto his goal for now, so he might be opting for Arcane Boots. I sure as hell hope he does. King Killer almost takes the fall. The Arcane Bolt's enough. Arrow flies like catches on snow, but UGTFO there's not too much he could do. And Bambi's out of mana, so also the Ruckus having a bit of a rough start from that early lead. 1,000 gold lead now going in favor of Blink, and 2,000 experience lead. The experience is what's the critical factor. And Mirana is now finding some experience now. But Mirana as well as the Sand very low in experience compared to the sports over and Blink. Babby, level 5 up on the Skywrath Mage, and Witch Doctor level 3, but Witch Doctor, he's just going for the cast build, so he's just there to provide that lockdown and provide that support. Snow, level 6, going to be hitting level 7 very soon. Gat, he has to start making some plays. If he goes for Arcane Boots, he can try zoning Flash out by constantly spamming the Clap. And the other benefit of going for the Arcane Boots is you could use Clap to be a Flash farm, because you need to get your core items up ASAP. And so every time they go in like that, you clap them, you throw out a few right clicks, you put the Fear of God into them. And Snow, Bottle charging up. Ember's, looks like Illusion Rune, he's going to drop a Remnant, so Snow doesn't even bother going for it because he knows he can't get it. Yoshi, he's just bodyguarding him, sticking next to him, holding hands, making sure that Morphling has a good start. Because if Morphling has a poor start, then the game starts to fall apart. Morphling, he needs farm to be effective. While he can, and for the first 10 to 15 minutes, like a Faceless Void, just with his abilities, and with how powerful his base stats are, he can make kills happen on supports. But past the 15-minute mark, you need items for him to be effective. And King Killer still actually out CSing him, despite the fact that he's had so much support going his way. But in terms of net worth, with those kills, is about an 800 net worth lead. So King Killer trying to recover somewhat, but things are still looking grim. So Slark, Dumbledore going with the Shadow Dance, he can now stay in lane definitely against Zeke. And Zeke with that Rabbit getting 2 kills, he's about a third of the way over to the Blink Dagger. Once that Blink Dagger comes online, Blink's Death Ball becomes very scary. The Flash, Arcane Boots probably going to be going for the mech. And Snow, the advantage of Snow is you can Death Ball and while he's split pushing, and Death Ball and split push at the same time. You have the replicates or Morphling farmed. When you decide to group up for a fight, then you simply zip into the replicate. Ravage has been forced to be used over in Double D. That should be enough to be able to bring him down. Actually, Shadow Dances. No Ancient Seal, no mana. It actually looks like it was on cooldown for that. Flash diving deep, trying to catch out Double D. Double D still getting the Shadow Dance regen, but the Scorched Earth damage is doing a fair amount. Flash guesses high, doesn't catch him out. Arrow flies up and whiffs. That can actually turn on Flash. Flash is caught way out of position. Flash is usually a very conservative player. This is his trademark, but looks like he's playing very aggressively now. Taking a page from Horsemen and Ruckus book. But Dumbledore, I think he actually should be the out. No, he's not going to be outlasted. Jim. The Axe Smash cleans him up. Method Man should be able to catch out Zeke, and Zeke is stuck in the trees. Arrow is available. The creeps are also there. UGTFO has to go for a point blank arrow, but the Anchor Smash doing so much damage. Gas should be there to bring him down. The point blank arrow from UGTFO punches him in the face and brings him down. But 3 heroes forced to rotate, and they still lost their core position farmer. Slark is actually very poor as far as his items going. He's only got treads towards the poor man shield. Slark, he's a hero where you have to get a good amount of farm. They shouldn't have left him alone against the Tide Hunter. They might have actually even looked to switch it up and send Gats against the Tide. Because Gats, with the Brawler, he's guaranteed to still find farm. And with the Clap Spam, he could zone out the Tide just as effectively as Tide could zone him out. Looks like he's gone for the phase once again. So this could be the critical factor if the game doesn't work out too well for Horsemen and Ruckus, especially since this time they're playing from behind. So Phase Boots build over on the Brewmaster doesn't really give you as much as the Arcane Boots does. It just doesn't give you as much benefit compared to the Arcane Boots. It's just clearly the superior build over on the Brewmaster. The only advantage of the Phase Boots is if you could get it incredibly early on. So for instance, if you got First Blood and you started with Boots and you're able to finish it by say 5-6 minute mark, and their supports didn't have Boots, then you can run around and kill them, and you could find a lot of kills from that and therefore recover the gold that you invest into the Phase Boots. But otherwise, it's not really going to be effective, especially when it's your only item at the moment. You really need to Blink Dagger as well, but Zeke should be beating him to the chase. The advantage of the Dire Side Tide Hunter is if he gets zoned out, which the Dire Side offlaner has to be very careful about, he does get called out with the Pounce, but he's got the Anchor Smash. It's actually just animation cancel. He's just forced Dumbledore back. Dumbledore wouldn't be too worried if he ate that Anchor Smash. He's got the Shadow Dance regen, but his CS score is very low. He needs to find a lot more net worth to become effective. Slark probably going to be going for a Blink Dagger this game, but that being said, the disadvantage of the Blink Dagger build is against the Skywrath. If you blink and the Skywrath in there, he just silences you, you're dead. So the Blink Dagger does give you a huge amount of utility. Arrow flies on UTF, unfortunately whiffs. The same chain is there. Gats is also there as well. He actually went for the Drunken Haze instead of the split. That ensures that Snow's able to escape from that. And now gets close to Doom. Misplays coming out from Gats. If he didn't Drunken Haze, it would have enough for the split. That would have been a kill. Instead, he takes a fall. So once again, the disadvantage of the Face Boots being illustrated. Having the extra mana to use your abilities is critical. There's no point in leveling Haze if you're going for the Face Boots build, because you're not going to have enough mana to use all your abilities. And if you can't get the Clap split off, you might as well draft another hero, because the Brewmaster, you have to win the first 20 minutes. You have to be able to try to force the issue and take these early fights, because otherwise you can't play him from behind. If the game goes late enough, Morphling will wreck you. Arrow flies, catches out Bambi. Supports are there, the King Killer's got a double damage rune. He ain't afraid of nothing. He runs in, Bowstrike comes over, Method Man brings him down. Snow standing his ground, man fighting, because he knows he's got the waveform to get to catch him out. Dumbledore comes in, Ravage flies as well, but he's got the Shadow Dance. Then turning around, Kin actually should be able to bring him down. One more right click. Flash cuts him down, Sword of Flame. And Tumbledy fleeing for his life. He's got pounce available as well. Stick charge coming up. Cooldown. Arrow catches out Flash. Does a fair amount of damage, but Morphling catches him out with the waveform. This is the power of the Morphling. The waveform does so much for him. And Method Man with the silence up and with no mana, he should be taking it full. Zeke should be able to kill him with the Anchor Smash. He just throws it out, and the AoE will be enough. He doesn't want to use the mana. He just spits in his face instead. Splits now coming, but the rest of your team isn't there. UGTFO can't do anything. If he comes, then he'll die. If Morphling just waveforms, Yoshi just stands the ground. If you got one more right click, it would have been a kill. Zeke now has Blink Dagger, so you use your split to get a kill on a hero that probably would have died anyway if you had support there. So Gat's really questionable decision making coming out from him. If Horsemen and Ruckus of the game falls out of their favor, a lot of pressure falls on Gat. Because the Brewmaster, you can't play passive with the Brewmaster, you can't misplay with the Brewmaster at all. He's such a timing-specific hero, like the Slark, that you have to do very well. They're going on the Replicates, and the Replicate takes the same amount of damage as a regular hero. So usually with the Illusion, it takes about 300 or 400% extra damage, but the Replicate Illusion takes 100. 2 Sentry Hordes being dropped to ensure that Method Man can sandstorm his way out of there. Moonlight Shadow isn't available yet, but the supports from Blake, they're usually very onto it when it comes to carrying sentries and carrying dust. King Killer, Haste Run, could go on Yoshi, but supports are immediately TPing in. Zeke's coming in, doesn't have the Ravage, I'm thinking it might be coming with cooldown fairly soon, never mind. He throws out the Anchor Smash over Method Man. Method Man disjoints the cask, catches him out, he's going in for the epicenter, actually gets it off, stands ground against Snow, Snow just kills him with the waveform. Catches out 2 of those Surgery, waveform is on cooldown, so he can't stand his ground. Snow throwing out right clicks, so it should be able to bring down Gat. He gets a double kill. King Killer, well, they don't kill Snow, I don't think they can bring him down. He's got the waveform and the morph available. He's back up to full mana with the Arcane Boost. King Killer throws out the Searing Chain, catches out 2. But Snow actually could go for killing him right now. He's actually very low. But let's pick up a regen rune. You can use that to try to re-engage. Tumbledy jukes high and then pounces low. Double Remnant's being used. No, he has actually added stats to be the strength morph out of. So he's got the waveform available, so he's using it to try and buy as much time as possible. If that pounce landed, it could have gone for a kill. Moonlight Shadow being used to disengage. There's added synergy with the Moonlight Shadow with the Slark, since if he's invis, he's going to get the Shadow Dance regen, but he really needs Shadow Dance level 2. Shadow Dance level 1 isn't going to cut it, especially when you're playing from behind like this. And because the Slark is playing so far from behind, the supports from Blink, they're not afraid of him. Skywrath Mage can just catch him out the silence, so unless you could instantly kill the Skywrath, so if Gat comes with a clap as well as the Pounce Dark Pack combo, Skywrath just turns around and silences you, and Snow, if he left unchecked, Morphling does so much, and he hasn't taken a single death this game. He's actually got a fair amount of gold. He could opt to go for a super green Midas, or he could opt to simply rush the E-Blade. Would actually like the rush E-Blade build this game, because it gives you a lot of aggressive capability, especially since they're going for this Death Ball. If he opts to go for the Lincoln Sphere is actually seen as a farming item on the Morphling. But that being said, not necessarily a terrible pick, although that being said, no, the only item that could really destroy it is the hero-targeted Burrow Strike or the Drunken Haze. So it's actually a pretty terrible pickup on him. Probably should be opting for E-Blade Rush. And he's actually about 800 gold off the Eagle Song. So Morphling, once that Eagle Song comes online, the E-Blade, he could kill any hero in Horsemen and Ruckus, apart from King Killer, if he's got his shield up. If his shield is not up, he's dead. And Snow, it is snowing outside, so he's drawing power from the elements. Tumbledy, a lot of pressure does lie with the fact they pick 2 snowball-dependent heroes, and they're not able to snowball. Gat's going for phase once again, despite its pretty poor track record. When you're playing from behind, phase gives you absolutely nothing on the Brewmaster. No one cares if you can right-click them if you can't use your clap or your split. That's literally the reason why you picked the Brewmaster, to be able to win you the first 20 minutes of the game, but he can't do that right now. Bambi, called out, Method Man should be there bringing out the Sandstorm. Tumbledy does get the last hit in, but the Ravage comes out from Zeke, catches out 2, Method Man should be taking a fall, Tumbledy just gets on out there with the Shadow Dance, Waveform cleans it up, so Snow gets another kill. Brewmaster is able to take a tower in the top lane, but you don't want your Brewmaster to be split pushing, you want your Brewmaster to be something these fights. He still doesn't have a Blink Dagger. Arrow flies and whiffs, cast flies out from Tumbledy, but he's got Dark Pack to purge off if he really wants to. He knows he doesn't have to use it, it's not going to bounce. And the Death Ball from Blink coming online, you can Death Ball with any lineup because it's so entirely dependent on execution. If you're able to get your core items up, which in this case is the Arcane Boost as well as the Blink Dagger, looks like Morphling is going for Lincoln Sphere. It is a good farming item, even if there's no abilities to be able to block out. Ravage isn't there, so they don't have that huge teamfight capability, but because Zeke maxed Anchor Smash, because he's playing the Tyrant very effectively, Tyrant's doing a huge amount of damage. The split goes, but they really can't do anything with this. They're going to be able to deal enough damage, and it looks like the Adapter Strike over UTFO and the Anchor Smash is going to bring them down. Gats has plays in the Brewmaster, really costing them the game, not really accomplishing anything with the Brewmaster. As King Killer call decides the Doom and the Mystic Flare. Huge lead going in favor of Blink Dota, and things are looking grim for Horsemen and Ruckus. 4,000 gold lead and 3,000 experience lead. The Death Ball's going to keep going. They should be able to take this tier 2. There's no way they can really defend this. They've got the Epicenter and the Moonlight Shadow, but they could tank through that. They've got the mech coming up cooldown very shortly. Tumbledy, Zeke actually runs very far forward, so good recognition coming up from him. Moonlight Shadow up and Method Man, so he can't get the Epicenter off. He does take a fall. Gats comes and throws out a clap, but he's going to be taken fall with a level death. Tumbledy, Shadow Dance has been mostly wasted, used very defensively. He's not able to find a kill from that. And Horsemen and Ruckus, this could actually be the end of the road for them because they've lost the Tattoo Tower. The gold lead is now going far too much in favor of Blink Dota. It's about 7,000 gold lead going in their hands. Experience lead is well 5,000. The Sand King and the Mirana weren't able to make enough plays happen. The Slark was completely shut down. He's gone for drums. This is behind drums. And behind drums on the Slark doesn't give you anything. Slark is a hero that you have to get ahead and try to pick off the supports and stay ahead that way. Similar to a Clinks, if you start playing from behind, you don't really offer you too. It doesn't really offer you too much. You're forced to go at BKB this game because otherwise you're going to eat the Ravage, you're going to eat the Mystic Flare, or you're going to eat the Ancient Seal. And those are going to be enough to kill you. King Killer, no Battle Theory in sight. He's actually completely starved out this game. In terms of net worth, he's actually got less net worth than Double D, who's been completely zoned out over in the bottom lane. And Gats, a lot of fault lies with him because he went for a phase boost opposed to Arcane, because his splits have been completely ineffective. He's gotten one kill with the split, and that was a kill that he would have gotten if he just blinked and clapped. Yoshi was so low HP that if he blinked and clapped him and then split, he could have maybe gone on Bambi as well. And so the Brewmaster plays coming up from Gats, really underwhelming, and when you pick a timing-specific hero like the Brewmaster and like the Slark, you have to be able to win the laning stage, you have to be able to win these early fights. Because Snow Morphling, much harder to carry than the Ember Spirit, because Ember Spirit relies on these long drawn-out fights, and being able to burst his heroes down with a Slate of Fist. Morphling, he could survive that slate because he's got the Strength Ball, so he could constantly keep Strength Morphling. With the Shotgun, he could kill Ember Spirit if he catches them out. The Shotgun, the E-Blade Adaptive Strike combo has a very long range as well, so that means that Ember Spirit has to play even more defensively. Yeah, with the Blink now up on Doombringer, Flash can catch him out with the Blink Doom. He doesn't have to doom anybody else, all he has to do is doom the Ember. Slark is too far behind to really be at all too effective. Zeki has a fantastic game over in the bottom off lane. He's able to find a lot of kills, able to zone out Double D, got a very early Blink Dagger. Looks like he's going for a Refresher Orb Rush. The advantage of the Refresher Orb Rush is if you get it when you've got level 2 Ravage, you'll have enough mana to use your abilities. If you, assuming your Arcane Tool is also off cooldown, but looks like he's going for Pipe. If you got level 3 Ravage, and you refresh and then you ult, you will just barely have enough mana. Doom over in King Killer, Snow should be able to bring him down. A few more right clicks, got the Adaptive Strike available as well, Waveform's up, and there you go. Yoshi's able to seal the deal. UGTFO called the Ancient Seal. While we're talking about seals, Mystic Flare's there, and he just cleans them up. UGTFO and the Mirana, bit of questionable pickup going for the Mirana, especially with no setup hero. If they went for a Bane or a Shadow Demon, I'd understand it a lot better. His arrows at the very beginning were good, but the later the game goes, Mirana doesn't really offer you anything unless you're able to do a lot of work in the early stages of the game. So Horsemen and Ruckus going for an incredibly difficult to execute lineup. They're relying on too many things going in their favor. They had too many moving pieces with their lineup. They had to be able to set up these ganks over in the mid lane, over in the tri lane as well, to be able to ensure that the mid lane was one, so Ember Spirit could be able to start to carry them through. Slark was able to find his early Blink Dagger or his early Shadow Blade. Now he's forced to go for a BKB, so he's not going to be that ganking presence. And Slark, he's not a carry hero. He carries if he gets obscenely far ahead. He's a hero that can carry because he gets so far ahead. So similar to how Bloodseeker can carry or how Juggernaut can carry. Because you're so powerful in the early stages of the game, because you have so much pick-off power, you have to find these kills. If you're not able to find these kills, or if your team is behind, Slark really doesn't offer you much. And so they were relying on too many things working in their favor, which could have worked if they had good execution. But because a lot of pressure was, and a lot of emphasis was placed on Brewmaster, so if the laning phase didn't go their way, Brewmaster can recover this. Because Brewmaster, if he gets a good blink clap split, he can win you a fight single-handedly, especially with the rest of your team being able to provide damage. He provides lockdown, you do the damage. But because Gats was so ineffective on the Brewmaster, because he went for phase boots, it offers you absolutely nothing, because he got it so late, and because that was the only item. If you went for Arcane, every time Flash comes to get a creep, you clap him, you hit him. And you're not going to be able to kill him or zone him out, but you keep him low enough that he has to constantly be afraid. We've got supports rotating in. Double D actually reveals himself. Gets caught up with the Doom as well as the Mystic Flare and the Ancient Seal. Ravage flies out to ensure his death. Gav comes in. Should be able to clean up Bambi. The mech is there. UCFO runs in. Those are the Starstorm. Actually starting to turn this fight. Moonlight Shadow's being used. Emperor flies out. Snow should be able to clean up UGTFO in the background. He's got Lincoln Sphere up on them, so he's very tanky and hard to kill. They're able to kill one and just barely in exchange for two, maybe even three. He's TPing out, but the level death cancels it. And so they lose all three. They lose two cores and the support hero. Gats is also hanging around there for a bit too long. He could be taking a fall as well. Blink has been cancelled. Zeki's able to spin him in the face. Yeah, Gats is going to be taking a fall. There's no way he should be able to escape from this, especially with Zeki body blocking and Snow there with the waveform as well as the adaptive strike available. And the Horsemen and Ruckus, this could be the end of the road for them. Blink Dota, the death ball's online for them now. The game is so far in their favor that unless they massively misplay, they should be able to control the tempo of the game. They should be able to take these tattoos, starve them, go look in terms of map vision, in terms of map control. Horsemen and Ruckus, no wards up for them. They've got, never mind, they've got these two wards up. But this ward's a completely defensive ward that's completely useless at this point because the tier 2 is going to be taking a fall. You have this ward if the tier 1's gone, the tier 2's up, but the tier 2 is going to be dying very shortly. This ward as well doesn't really offer you too much. It's specific just to the mid lane. But the mid lane tier 2 is gone, so these wards don't offer you nothing. Very surprised that they actually don't have a gem up on their supports to be able to start de-warding. Morphling with the Linken's Fair, even though this isn't necessarily a Linken's friendly game, it gives Morphling so many stats and so much regen that it's considered farming on him. Because it means that he can keep spamming out his waveform, it means he's always going to have mana to be able to morph. And Morphling, because he can convert mana and stats into survivability, similar in a sense to the Storm Spirits, and they can use the Ball Lightning. Morphling can rely on Morph. They don't have a silence to control the Morphling. Because they don't have a silence, Morphling is always able to morph, they don't have enough damage to kill him while he's morphing. And so because they can't kill him, while they're focus firing him, Yoshi and Flash can deal a huge amount of damage with the Death Ward, with the Mystic Flare, as well as the Doom and the level Death. And Snow can still go for kill attempts and still deal damage to the Adapter Strike as well as the Waveform. But if you ignore Morphling, and you let him stay mostly Agimorph and start right-clicking you, he right-clicks very hard, he can 2 attacks a second. And with the Waveform, he's now getting 2-3 shots in. King Killer caught him with a Doom, as well as the Blink. Anchor Smash brings him down. And King Killer too far behind. Going for a Battlefield, it's going to be the latest Battlefield of his life, if he's even able to get it. They can't defend high ground with this lineup, because it's so difficult to be able to defend high ground against a tanky tri-core lineup from coming out from Blink. So for when you're trying to execute a Death Ball lineup, you want to pick up tanky cores. Even if it's just one, so even if you just got the Death Prophet or just got the Bristleback, like what Vici Gaming like to do, you need at least one tanky core, so he can run up front and slow siege and force you to initiate on them. Because it makes it very difficult for you to be able to win these fights. Because when you're behind against a tanky core lineup, you can't kill them, so you're going to get even further behind. UGTFL gets stalled on by the Mystic Flare coming out from Bambi. And Gats throws up the Haze for a right click, but he's absolutely useless at this point in the game. Even if he gets the best clap split of his life, they're so tanky he's not going to do enough damage. He gets caught out of the Agent Seal as well as the Ravage, and he dies before he gets a split off. Dumbledore, Shadow Dance, he's forced to Shadow Dance as well as using the Dark Pack to keep himself alive. Turns around on Yoshi, but he's not going to deal enough damage in time, especially with the Anchor Smash landing on him. Sentry's been dropped to prevent out the Moonlight Shadow regen. King Killer's brought back into he's now alive back in the fight. Only got 1 point in the slate though. And Snow, he hasn't taken a single death this game. He's just completely destroying Horsemen of the Ruckus. Method Man takes a fall. No, wasn't able to get a successful Epicenter off, so it looks like it was cancelled by the Adapter Strike coming out from Snow. And Snow drawing from the power of the elements. Looks like because it's snowing outside, Snow now OP over that Morphling. Morphling's a hero that really works very well against Horsemen of the Ruckus because it supports it so often in the position. It's just a characteristic failure of their team. It's because Blink also have 5 incredibly skilled players. In terms of objective skill, Blink have got the best team. It's just in terms of team synergy, 5IP are able to counteract Blink because they know how Blink play. They're very easy to read. So Yoshi should be taking forward to the Starstorm. Slark should be able to bring him down. Turns around, catching that Doom on King Killer. So King Killer's still running up ahead. They might actually be able to turn this, even though they've lost 1 to the Racks. And if they're able to turn this fight and wipe them, they can start to turn the game around. So Bambi should be taking forward. Bolt is also used on him. Zeki, he's able to zip on earlier. He's got Pipe of Insight. So Pipe and Mech makes it very difficult to deal with. Dumbledore, he knows Skywrath is dead, so it's a replicate. He wants to kill Snow. Snow is a big fat sack of cash right now. He's actually almost going to eat 10, 0, and 10. Brewmaster actually denies Ember since he was going to die to the Doom. Dumbledore actually goes high. Ping it immediately comes up from UTFO saying, mate, where the hell are you going? Tries to catch him out with a max range pounce, but Snow just waveforms on out there, and he should be the TP home since without the pounce, Slark's got nowhere to interrupt TPs. Actually, I don't think pounce even interrupts TP. Yeah, there you go. And now we've got an Aghanim Scepter up from the Witch Doctor. So you've got another priority target. So the greed of Yoshi hasn't really been checked, and Witch Doctor now acts as another core hero. Hail Mary push being suggested by Method Man, but when you're this far behind, when they can simply split push with the Morphling, things are looking grim. 15,000 gold lead in favor of Horsemen of Ruckus, 12,000 experience lead, and Gats really hates the point playing, but a lot of the pressure and a lot of the fault for how this game turned out is rely on the Brewmaster, because the other 2 lanes, you could afford to lose the other 2 lanes if the Brewmaster gets a great start. Because he can then create space for your entire team. But when you go for silly things like the phase boots and you're not able to find these kills early on, when you go for very inefficient splits off, when you're not able to have enough mana to get an early blink, clap, into split, you're not playing the hero effectively. And the whole point of the Brewmaster is you have to play him effectively in the early stages of the game because that's when you're most powerful. Because if you're not able to capitalize off that, because you fall off so quickly, the hero is entirely dependent on execution. Because once you fall behind this Brewmaster, it's lights out. A good Brewmaster player can single-handedly win you the game in the first 20 minutes. Because he's so damn hard to kill, because he's incredibly tanky with the built-in evasion as well as the crit. He's incredibly beefy, he's got the split to be able to provide that second life, if need be. So you can use it defensively to keep yourself alive and turn around in ganks. and how powerful Clap is, especially with 2 other melee cores that can deal a lot of physical DPS. Clap is absolutely crucial for the lineup. So even opting for points in Drunken Haze when you went for Phase Boots, it offers you absolutely nothing. You're not going to have enough mana to use all your abilities, unless you have stick charges or some kind of mana regen. But you never want to rely on anything like that. You want to make sure there's as few moving pieces as possible in your draft and in the design of your hero with the build that you go for, because otherwise if you're dependent on things being completely optimal or the enemy team making a mistake, there's a fundamental flaw in your strategy. And the enemy team should be able to punish that. Method Man stealing Dumbledore's farm, 2 braces up on him. He's just going for a Blink Dagger, so Chinese poverty build coming up from the Sand King. When you're playing super far behind in a hero like a Sand King or an Earthshaker, you're not going to be getting your Blink Dagger anytime soon. You just get 2 braces. So you try to just walk in and get a good ult off. Good Observer being placed there by Blink to give them vision on the high ground. They're going for Roshan, they should be able to secure it. Horsemen and Ruckus can't really contest this. And with that Roshan, they should be able to go in for one last push and try to end the game from there. If Horsemen and Ruckus are able to wipe Blink, and then they could start to turn the game around, because that's a huge amount of gold. Or if they're even able to trade even and kill Snow, they can turn the game around. But because of how damn powerful Snow is over on that Morphling, he's got the E-Blade as well as the Lincoln Spear and the Aegis. So you might be able to kill him once if you're able to catch him out, but you don't even have a silence for that, so it's going to be very difficult. I don't think they actually don't have enough damage to kill him, because if you don't silence them off with the Strength Morph available, you're not going to deal enough DPS for you to bring him down. So the reason why Morphling is so powerful as a carry hero is he can play crazy YOLO like the Abaddon, and he's got 2 very powerful escape mechs. He's actually got 3. You've got the waveform itself to physically relocate yourself, so you can split push. You've got the Strength Morph to be able to ensure that you can just walk away from them, and then you've got the Replicate. And so even if UGTFO lands an arrow, even if you catch out Snow in the Chronosphere, Morphling, he can somehow Strength Morph, even if he's frozen in time. Morph is completely ridiculous as an ability, so you have to build a silence, or you have to have a natural Hex carrier, or an inbuilt Hex to deal with him. Because otherwise he will destroy you, because if you can't kill him, and if you're focusing him, the rest of his team is unchecked. And with the E-Blade, he can just burst down one of your heroes immediately. He can actually kill Kin instantly with the amount of damage he has if he catches them without the Flame Guard. And with level 16 as well, with the maxed out Adaptive Strike, and going full Agi from the look of it, he's got 2 more points of strength, probably going to be morphing them into Agi as well. He doesn't really need any additionals, he doesn't need any kind of survivability right now, because he knows that he's so damn tanky. It's going to be very difficult. Doom lands on Gats, so he's not able to accomplish his job, which is the Clap Split. The counter initiation coming up from Flash, and the initiate on the Initiator. Mystic Flare looks like completely whiffed, although looks like probably cleaned up Method Man. Dumbledore using the Moonlight Shadow is able to catch out Bab. He could actually go for a kill. The mech is keeping him alive for a long time. BKB being used, but it's a BKB being used to kill the 5 position. The gem is on the deck though, so Dumbledore, if he's able to pick up and stay alive, that could be a critical factor. But they're going in. The Malediction, unfortunately, doesn't latch on him. But the Morphling just should be able to bring him down with the waveform. King Killer fleeing for his life, trying to do everything he can to stay alive. No Remnant up yet. He does throw out a Searing Chain over on Flash. But Zeke is coming in, he's got the Blink Dagger available. Snow just E-Blades him, doesn't even need the Adaptive Strike. And Horsemen and Ruckus, this looks like the end of the road for them. Blink Dota were able to capitalize on the weaknesses of Horsemen and Ruckus, which was the fact that they picked up a very ineffective support duo. Because when you pick up a Mirana, you need a support set up for him. Sand King can set up if he goes boots first. If he doesn't go boots first, you're risking too much. If he's not able to get these good bar strikes, then he's just in a standstill, and they're letting him just sit there. They're gonna just kill him off with Anchor Smashes and both waveforms. Gas comes in, just look how much damage that Clap just did on their entire team. If he could do that 10 minutes earlier, the game would be completely different. Method Man, actually not even going for the episode, so on cooldown. Yoshi stands his ground with the Aghanim Scepter upgraded Death Ball, UTFO force back. And Method Man actually taking a fair amount of actually doing a fair amount of damage to Yoshi, should be able to bring him down, but he gets cleaned up with the Mystic Flare. Not able to move out in time. So even when you're this late into the game, when the enemy team's that far ahead, a 4-man Clap did a huge amount of damage in that. It actually almost turned it around for them. If he had that 10 minutes earlier, you could win fights just off the power of Clap. But because he wasn't able to do so, and because he went for such an ineffective build, and wasn't able to get these good rotations in, his entire team paid the price for it. GTFO and the Method Man as well could have picked a much more effective support duo. The Sand King picked up on his own is fine if you pick him up with another support hero. So for instance, the Sand King Venomancer, that would be a much more effective support duo, because the Sand King can also then rotate into jungle and clear it out. So Sand King can't really do much against the Tidehunter, and Venomancer can try to zone out the Tidehunter and give Dumbledore the space he needs. They weren't able to provide Dumbledore space, they weren't able to find enough kills to ensure that Ken had an easy mid lane, and so all 3 of the lanes effectively fell apart. The Brewmaster was the only one that had a relatively okay lane. But because Brewmaster wasn't able to carry his team through the mid game, everything fell apart. So if Horsemen and Ruckus are looking back at this game looking for analysis, first things first, no phase boots on Brewmaster. for the love of Christ, go for Arcane Boots. And the second that, you might actually want to switch up who's playing the Brewmaster, because Gats, his split clap combos haven't really been too effective. He hasn't really been executing his hero to his full potential. It looks like, as far as his effectiveness in his team fights goes, it's fairly minimal. He's been splitting at the wrong times. He hasn't really had the mana to be able to clap. He's using his abilities in the wrong order. He keeps using the Drunken Haze when he doesn't have enough mana to use his other abilities. So lack of simple arithmetic. You can't Drunken Haze if you're going for face boots, because then you just barely have enough mana to clap and split. Drunken Haze isn't going to give you enough benefit. You might as well go for small points and stats. If you went for 1 point in Brawler, if you decide to go for Phase Boots, the only acceptable build, if you happen to go for Phase, is 1 point in Brawler, then you go everything else in the stats. Because that means that you have enough mana to maybe get another clap off if you've got stick charges. And you can work with that. But because he opted to go for a very greedy and very inefficient build, and because he wasn't able to make any space happen for his team, everyone else paid the price. Dumbledore as well, picking a Slark against a Tidehunter, you're not going to have a good lane. Against a melee core up against a Tidehunter wins every single time. The only lane that Tidehunter actually has a difficult time against is maybe a Clockwork if you get good cog blocks off so you burn off his mana at the start, or a Timbersaw, because Timbersaw is completely ridiculous. He's more ridiculous than the Tidehunter against melee heroes. Zeke throws out a Shiva Ravage, but does catch out Gats. Gats also eats a Doom and an E-Blitz. A lot of hatred being used up on him. And while that's happening, UCTFO dragging back the Creep Wave to try to delay the push. Since once that Creep Wave dies, backdoor regen will kick in. But he's forced to TP back home. And with that set of racks falling in favor of Blink Dodo, gold lead about 25,000, actually 27,000 gold lead. So this is actually the highest gold lead we've seen so far. No, never mind, 30,000 down. 30,000, which was 5 IP, I think, against Recursion. And about 25,000 experience lead. Horsemen and Ruckus at this point, they cannot recover. And something that you never want to say as a caster, because you always want to give hope, but even if they wipe them, the tier 1s are up in the mid lane. The tier 2s are up in the top and bottom. They haven't taken enough damage for you to be able to push through, so you can't even do a Hail Mary push. Horsemen and Ruckus, though, they're not GGing out. Method Man, he's finally showing off his Blink dagger. He gets an Epicenter Blink off. If they had that Blink Epi available earlier, if they had the Blink Clap with the Agnum set, with the Arcane Boots, they could have done a lot of work. So Horsemen and Ruckus, that lineup, it definitely could have won them the game. It definitely had a lot of mid-game power. But because their lanes fell apart, because they left Slark alone against the Tidehunter, because they didn't provide him any support, because they went for Mirana and a Sanking, so they had no reliable setup for the arrow. Horsemen and Ruckus, strategic mistakes coming up from them, and that cost them the game. And Yoshi, showing a lot of respect. Blink Dodo and Horsemen and Ruckus, despite the rivalry, both teams both respect each other a lot. Horsemen and Ruckus, on a good day, when they've got the A game on, they definitely can take a game off any of the other top 2 teams, either the top 3 teams, or as a 5 IP as well as Blink. But for game number 3, they really didn't bring their A game, and it showed strategic decision making. Absence of that coming out from Horsemen and Ruckus. You never want to draft Mirana, even if you've got the best Mirana player in the world. You want to, unless you could guarantee land every single arrow, so you have a mid hero that can capitalize on that. So for instance, a Dragon Knight, since Dragon Knight can Dragon Tail, he could run, once he has the EDF up, he could Dragon Tail set up for the arrow. You have to have a setup for the Mirana. Since UGTFO, probably one of the better Mirana players in the ODL, if not the best in terms of arrow accuracy, but there's only so much you could do. And when Mirana falls behind as a full position hero, she basically just turns into an arrow ball. And when you're missing those arrows, when you can't land the arrows, or if you land an arrow in the Morphling, he doesn't give a damn about the arrow, everything falls apart. So that looks like it's going to be it for now. There will be a pause until Saturday, so no, there will be no games on tomorrow, so I believe everyone is fairly busy. But Saturday, starting from about 12 o'clock, there will be the LAN finals for both League of Legends as well as Dota 2. So starting from, I think, 2 o'clock, League of Legends Championship starts, so it's the best of 5 for them. So the grand finals, and after that, the best of 5. So 5 IP up against Blink. I would have to give the advantage on 5 IP if I was a betting man, just because I believe at 5 IP they know how to beat Blink. They know how to read their drafts and know how to counteract their drafts. So their strategic decision making is designed to counteract Blink, because in a lot of ways they're the antithesis. But I mean, you never know. Blink could pull something surprising out of the trick, since they, in terms of objective skill, they are the best team, hands down. All their players above 4K MMR, they play a lot together. Each of their players individually is exceptionally skilled, and could be the best player in any other team. So Blink Dota, they definitely have a lot going for them, but it will be interesting to see how the grand finals turn out. So that should be it for now. And thanks for watching.